People are stupid. No matter what upbringing you've been given, it's almost impossible to avoid heavy, provocative discussions when going out into the world, which is a major reason I try to avoid it. Alas, in this society where you need that precious paper and metal to not die, go out we must. Hell, even in the scenarios where we're forced to stay in, a quarantine scenario. Mentally, spiritually, go out we do anyway, be it through this devil bird apparatus or some other means of linking into the collective consciousness of humanity. Is this pretentious framing of brain spew doing it for ya? I love assigning really flowy and open-minded language to mundane things. It's a very common occurrence in communication. Georgie Boy called it soft language, elongating and padding out straightforward things with a mechanical, clinical barrage of wordage.
Soft language. That language that takes the life out of life. Americans have trouble facing the truth, so they invent a kind of a soft language to protect themselves from it. That was, of course, during the Civil War. Now there's another phrase I dearly love. That is a true oxymoron if I've ever heard one. Do you think any country could really have a civil war? Say, pardon me. I'm awfully sorry. Poor people used to live in slums. Now the economically disadvantaged occupy substandard housing in the inner cities. And they're broke. They're broke. They don't have a negative cash flow position. They're fucking broke.
Of course, this isn't always 100% applicable in my eyes. I don't necessarily agree that being overly blunt towards illnesses or disabilities exists in quite the same ballpark.
They say they're going to pre-board those passengers in need of special assistance. Cripples! Simple, honest, direct language. But we don't have any cripples in this country anymore. We have the physically challenged. Is that a grotesque enough evasion for you?
In my eyes, those who deal with those conditions should have something of a say in how that shit works, should have some form of agency in this world we live in where we're so set on just treating them like people. And while we're on it, let's explore that. If I just came up to you and your mom, or maybe your wife, and said, "Hey, sup, cunt," you or her might have some reservations about that. Technically, if I really wanted to stand my ground on free speech and expression, I could argue all day over how it's just a four-letter word, just a monosyllabic noise whose meaning has broadened over the last century. How people over in England and Australia call everyone cunt, regardless of age or gender, and don't seem to mind. But it would be a lot more convenient for everyone involved, including me, oddly enough, if I simply, didn't call her a cunt, at least without first knowing if she thought that was cool or funny or not. Generally, I try to avoid making people feel bad or uncomfy, even if I myself don't have that same relationship with the content that triggers that. Courtesy, dignity, respect. It's pretty fun. It actually makes people way less likely to avoid you at parties and stuff. Go figure. But I do try to apply this principle when traversing unfamiliarity, reading the room for things to maybe avoid in that situation, whether it's profanity, innuendo, sex talk, or some good old-fashioned 9/11 jokes.
Were you in New York when the Twin Towers fell?
No, I was in Los Angeles.
Well, either way, it was a national tragedy. It was.
Yeah, I know.
9/11.
That said, once out of those woods, and chemistry and repartee are established, if you swear like a sailor, call your family bitches and bastards, partake in gallows humor, or throw mutual insults and slurs back and forth between applicable friends, hey, fine by me. You better just make damn sure it goes both ways. There's nothing worse than someone who can't take what they dish out, who then feigns some rule of no rules on everyone's behalf until it hits a sore spot. Yeah, man, the world's a dark place with or without your sensitive coddling. So nothing should be off limits when it comes to comedy and humor and ball breaking. Just make sure you don't say A-cab around me, cause my uncle's a cop and he isn't a bastard. It hurts my fifi when people don't stand for the pledge. Back to George's bit though. Overall, I jive with his takes on weaseling our way around topics and avoiding what we actually mean when we say things. Wasting everyone's time, removing the emotional pungency that should be found in human interaction, the poetry, the truth. I'm talking about that very modern, very liberal way of dressing up disparities and differences in words that absolve us of the responsibility of dealing with that shit head on. And when I say liberal, I don't mean the libs, or the Dems, or the snowflakes, or Meathead from All in the Family, if you're old enough to remember that one. I'm speaking of a society under the influence of liberalism, our enlightened appeals to freedom and the pursuit of happiness we like to make, centuries after flooding the land with indigenous blood and using slave labor to erect giant cocks that symbolized how dope and secure we are in ourselves.
A group of slave owners who wanted to be free. So they killed a lot of white English people in order to continue owning their black African people so they could wipe out the rest of the red Indian people and move west and steal the rest of the land from the brown Mexican people, giving them a place to take off and drop their nuclear weapons on the yellow Japanese people. You know what the motto of this country ought to be? You give us a color, we'll wipe it out.
This is what George seemed to be really miffed about at the end of the day, using softer, less direct language to mask underlying hypocrisies and disingenuousness. And I can't think of a lamer iteration of this than polite bigotry. The most common form of what I'm talking about is often framed as a simple, innocent case of disagreeing. Hey, I'm just saying how I feel. It's okay if we disagree on the subject. You know, not everyone has to agree with you on everything. Wow, man, you're gonna get all hostile at me simply for disagreeing with you about feminism? Freddie Mercury was gay. Just because I don't agree with that part of him doesn't mean I think less of him as a person or as an artist. I don't agree that people should be able to just change their pronouns and gender, but that doesn't mean we can't have a mutual respect for each other as human beings. Yeah, I love when things are dry and wet at the same time. So, like, fellas, here's the thing with disagreeing. Typically, when there's an agreement or a disagreement, it's over a concrete concept. Let's call it an opinion. Going back to earlier, George thinks that softer language was so broadly stupid that it should be applied to labeling the disabled. While I agreed with most of it, I disagreed with this portion of his thought process. Based on my own research and anecdotal experience, those who are missing limbs or have no motor control or struggle to learn traditionally or perhaps are bipolar or clinically depressed don't always appreciate the ways in which people address them. Surprisingly, being talked about in ways that are also used as insults or pejorative statements doesn't make a lot of these people feel all that great about themselves.
What are you, blind? What are you, deaf? Man, what a spurg. What a fucking schizo. She must be bipolar. Look at that kid's stupid hair in his Sonic shirt. He must be mentally ill or something.
But you know, I don't think less of them people are nothing.
Sure, some comedians and free speech warriors out there might be okay with all of it, regardless of who, what, or why. Hell, I've certainly been guilty of using some not very cool words when I was an edgy kid or when I get really mad about something. But much like the word cunt in your great Aunt Gertrude at her husband's funeral, we seem to agree that different contexts call for different language, and it's better to make that arrangement among those in specific circles rather than just any dang where. And so, in my opinion, it's not the end of the world if I have to refrain from saying this shit, at the very least, that recklessly. Alright, that was a lot to chew through. Let's try to frame that level of critical thinking to identity politics. This'll be really fun. The item of the day goes as follows. Lil Nas X is openly gay and is extremely vocal about how certain fans and critics treat him because of it.
I don't agree with him on that stuff.
You don't agree that he's gay?
No, that's not what I mean.
Well, what do you mean then?
I don't agree with how he goes about showing it.
How so?
Like, we get it. Stop shoving it down our throats in public or in your music videos. It's so try-hard as you make out with dudes and slide down a stripper pole and show us just how gay you are.
I don't know, man. I'd argue there's just as much, if not more, content out there that shoves straightness, or at the very least, heteronormative stories down the viewer's throat. Not even like rom-coms either, like action movies, sci-fi, children's films, whole-ass plot lines that don't really add that much to the wider work. We just tend to not notice it most of the time because it's normalized and the product's aimed at the majority demographic.
Yeah, well, I think that's bad too.
Okay, that's fair enough, I guess, but why is this the first time I'm hearing about it?
Because it's not the same as what Lil Nas is doing.
Why?
Because he wasn't like this at first, but now he won't shut up about it, and he just crams it into everything he makes.
Crams what?
You know what I mean.
No, I don't know what you mean.
Yeah, you do. Quit acting stupid.
Okay, so do you, like, think it's inherently worse if it's got a gay slant to it or something?
You're putting words in my mouth.
No, I think those words are just floating around in your heart and brain, and you're just keeping them inside rather than telling me how you actually feel to sound civil.
I'm my own person with my own convictions. You can't tell me how to feel about this stuff.
Yeah, that's true. I can ask you why you feel that way, though.
No. I don't have to play 20 questions just because I don't think the same thing as you.
So, in summary, you just want to be able to ass blast a hot take about disliking gay people into the other without having to explain yourself, and everyone around you just has to let it happen, or they're the ones who are being closed-minded.
I never said anything about disliking gay people. I just disagree with their lifestyle.
And there we go. I don't agree with their lifestyle. So specific, so simple, like it's veganism. Or the NRA or some shit. Aside from just being grammatically dicey, I mean, agreeing or disagreeing is reliant on there being a precise opinion of some kind, not some matter of fact or a way in which someone tries to express themselves. It's so removed from the moral implications that it's trickier to get at the heart of the conversation, which is that they think, to whatever extent they refuse to verbalize, that something is wrong or amiss about being a certain race, religion, or sexual orientation. And that's what pisses me off the most, the lingual gymnastics people use to avoid having to say that they don't like something or that they feel this way or that way about who or what a person is.
Quincy Jones said that Marlon Brando had sex with Richard Pryor.
And a lot of people saying, oh, you didn't know Richard Pryor was gay? You didn't hear the stand-up? Like, you know what? I'm gonna be honest. I think I loved Rich so much that even I had cognitive dissonance.
So what did you think about the gay accusations on Richard Pryor?
Let me say, have you ever read Richard Pryor's book?
I have not.
Read the Richard Pryor bio. It's in his book that he slept with a transgender. Well, the day is transgender. Back when we was coming up, there was transvestites.
And then there was the roast where he was talking about fucking transgender, remember? And everyone just thought, oh, he's just fucking around.
Right. Hey, man, let me tell you, we live in a world now, you really can't give your opinions about people's lifestyle, but if that's what he was into, hey, Richard, God bless you.
I heard the shit where he was talking about, oh yeah, he was there when I fucked my first and all this kind of crazy shit, and nah. Like, nah.
Quincy went on to say that not only was Richard Pryor gay, because he was talking about Marlon Brando having sex with these guys.
Right.
He also mentioned Marvin Gaye and James Baldwin.
Let me tell you something. That means Quincy's gay.
All right, you did some shit that I don't necessarily agree with. It's not gonna stop me now from championing you as the greatest comedian that I've ever fucking heard.
When people say so-and-so is gay, this is what I tell them. If you know someone's gay, that means you was in the room. You saw the shit go down.
If your dick gets hard for another man, you're gay, buddy.
You're gay.
I don't care if it still gets hard for women too. I don't care if you didn't even fuck a guy, if you never even touched a guy. If you mentally get an erection from thinking about another man, you're a homosexual. You know, you're still my fucking hero. You're just not my hero as far as, sexual deviancy goes. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you that's a whole nother thing.
Like, just think of all the time we waste wrestling the specifics of what they really mean, when we could have just had a much more honest and good faith conversation if they simply, said what they mean, instead of playing their own barbed wired version of the victim card after someone reacts to or argues against their opinion. I just believe in traditional values. I grew up in a Christian house. I'm just old school. I was born in the South. It's just a conservative thing. It's just an Italian thing. It's just a black thing. It's just a Middle Eastern thing. I was raised in the streets. Yeah, well, I was born scrawny and androgynous at the intersection of thinking for more than 5 minutes lane and not treating others like shit avenue. And in these streets, we call dodging moral questions with half-baked identitarian excuses some pussy shit.
And that separates people. So they keep people separated, and that keeps them from thinking about the real problem. That's as simple as I see it. Probably it's not that simple, but...
How long is it going to take before guys who think like you, and I say guys who think like me, people who don't want to have racism in the country, people who don't want to be oppressing any minority, whatever it is, sexual, whatever minority, really get into positions of power and can change things?
You can't get in a position of power, it seems, if you think like that. It seems that the only time you get in a position of power is if you're like the people that are in power. People that get to become executives become like the people that were already executives.
I don't know, maybe
they go in with good intentions, but it eats them up. It's like a cesspool, you know. It just gets on you and it starts
the system
eating.
levels them.
Pretty soon it's all gone.
Is that what a cesspool sounds like?
Yes.
On top of largely being a product of ignorance and a lack of hands-on experience with the target in question, bigotry sucks because it's always fueled by some reckless fire and insecurity that almost never rears its head over far greater points of urgency. The financial elites continually fuck those who weren't lucky enough to be born on a higher caste and hoard wealth for vanity projects rather than for welfare programs.
Well, life's just unfair like that sometimes. Nothing we can do there except pull ourselves up by our bootstraps and hope that by following their example, we too will find success.
Corporations poison the environment with their practices while implying it's our fault if the oceans rise and then tell us to recycle more and buy better cars.
Well, I don't know that much about climate change, so I won't pretend to know much more than them. Plus, they should be able to run their business however they want. They put in all the work to build it, after all.
Employers ask their employees to sacrifice time that could be spent pursuing a hobby or maintaining bonds with their family or even just looking after their own health.
A, someone's got to keep bread on the table, and B, work is not only deeply important for the economy and society at large, but it's also a sign of virtue and character. I may miss some crucial moments in the time that I have on this earth, but we all need to make sacrifices to keep everything running and ensure happy lives for those who live here.
Yeah, you know what, man, those are all good points, I guess. Hey, by the way, these dudes over here want to get hitched and fornicate with each other as a guy and a gal would, and this lady right here would prefer if we maybe didn't call her a lady and instead used they and them.
No, I refuse. A man can only be pushed so far. I slave away day in and day out, breaking my back just to keep the lights on and keep my loved ones sheltered and safe. I am not wasting my breath on people who don't live in reality. The world is cruel and chaotic, and I can't control much of it, but that which I can control, you'll have to pry it from my cold, dead hand.
Yes. So firm, so fucking brave. I'm really glad there's people of grit out there who will stand up for their own principles. I mean, they have far more in common with the filthy mixed couple or the green-haired enby or gay homeless dude or the chick who thinks she's spiritually an otter on the inside than they do the entrepreneurs and career politicians who deny them all of their basic human rights. But no, go on, keep disagreeing. I'm sure it'll get us wherever we're going that much faster. I just hope if there's anything after that, you'll be able to look back at all the epic, high-stakes, intellectually charged battles you picked with the time you were given, completely free of regret and embarrassment. You're all so fucking cringe.
Smug, greedy, well-fed white people have invented a language to conceal their sins. It's as simple as that. The CIA doesn't kill anybody anymore. They neutralize people. Or they depopulate the area. The government doesn't lie. It engages in disinformation. I'm telling you, some of this language makes me want to vomit. Well, maybe not vomit. Makes me want to engage in an involuntary personal protein spill. Thank you all.